Well, it's that time again. We are here at Hockenheim for the 2015 season opener of the Lotus Cup Europe. This weekend is a special one for Lotus enthusiasts as we also remember the legend that is Jim Clark. The Memorial Weekend here at Hockenheim attracts a whole wealth of historic cars and race series, from the Bosch GP to the FIA Lurani Trophy and Race Club Germany, to name but a few. Hockenheim circuit is legendary and one of the favourites for our drivers in the calendar. Although the forest is now abandoned and the circuit shortened, the challenges are still ever present. So let's go and find out from our drivers how they're feeling ahead of round one.
It's going to be a nice season. I'm changing the car, so I'm running production this year. I was running 211 last year, lots of problem. So I'm really excited about this, and I hope the car's going to keep together, and driving it is more fun than the old one, so I'm really excited.
Looking forward to this season. I feel as I'm getting quicker and I'm hoping for some podiums this year.
I ran in the Cup UK for the last 2 years, decided to do Europe this year, and come out to Hockenheim, wonderful circuit. Looking forward to the season.
It's great to be back. I raced here in Cup Europe from when Paul started, I think it was 2009. I had a few years off, and it's great to be back and looking forward to bringing on a race win at some point.
I think it will be really exciting because of the work of Paul Golding, and also thanks to his team. So I think it will be a really exciting season.
As the cars take to the grid for the first time this season, the Lotus Cup Europe cars are ready to take on the first race. The Rasse brothers seem to be dominating, with Gregory in pole position and his brother John Rasse in P1 for the production class. It's a rolling start, so the cars are going to pile into that first corner, so it could all change just from that very first corner. But for the first time today, let's go racing.
So an absolutely huge field of 36 cars assembled across 4 classes for this opening round of the 2015 Lotus Cup Europe. And the Hockenheim circuit, always a great challenge for the drivers, an opportunity both to exercise their right foot but also test the setup of the car around some of the more sinuous twists and turns. So Gregory Rasse in pole position, clear of Jonathan Walker, then Nicolas Gibson and Anthony Fournier on the second row from Nick Walker and Xavier Georges. Jean-Baptiste Luc 11th head of the assistant and perennial Christophe Lazondre, and the very quick Steve Williams, this time in an Evora. Still they keep coming. Mark Goodett, another driver who is familiar to British fans, his exploits in the Lotus Cup UK amongst other things. And then we are very much into the production class runners. Kai Kederholm and Rob Woolridge should both progress up through the order, as will probably Nicolas Ferrer. So we get ready for the rolling starts here at Hockenheim, in car with Gregory Rasse as he looks to accelerate away from pole position through the never-ending right-hander that concludes the lap. And now off we go, and they fan out 3 or 4 wide as they jostle for second position, sprinting towards the first turn. In car with Jonathan Walker, as Rasse has got the lead. Nicolas Gibson sneaks through into second place, and Walker's going to run out of road. Just goes a little bit sideways across the AstroTurf before accelerating onward. Now this is where the current Hockenheim circuit departs from the old Grand Prix loop. The right-hand flick, a bit of a problem behind, and some contact, a couple of them being pushed out wide, and that is Philippe Loop, who was caught up in that, got a little bit of a nudge from somebody, and then sending 1 or 2 of them off to take evasive action. So the field's streaking through, and then through the first of the stadium sections. Nicolas Gibson already on the tail of Gregory Rasse. There is Rasse, the white car, on the brakes into the hairpin. The Evora running out very wide. I think that's Steve Williams, who may have a bit of a job to recover back onto the road, as we have got them all just filtering through. So Rasse has got the advantage from Ibsen, then Jonathan Walker. It's Nicholas Walker who is next along, and gaggle of the 211s. Already this huge field just beginning to spread itself out as the production class runners. Somebody getting a little bit sideways, heading on the brakes. A quick little right-hand flick this turn, and then they sprint on. So that was Jason McAnulty who was going sideways. Meanwhile, the battle for second place really coming together as Jonathan Walker coming up onto the tail of Nicolas Ibsen. And then we've got Nicholas Walker in charge of the next battle. It's Jeremy Lorenko. It is just behind him. There's Lorenko in the number 1 car. This stadium section largely unchanged from the Hockenheim Grand Prix lap from when Formula 1 raced here. Such popularity, particularly through the late 70s and into the 80s. So Rasse leads the way through the first turn. The rest of the field all following in close pursuit, but it's a reasonably lengthy race. The drivers got ahead of them, a 30-minute race, so they don't want to push too hard early on and maybe overexert their tyres. There is Marc Goudet looking to make a little bit of progress. He's up behind the pink 211 and Nathalie Genou-Prachet. In fact, Genou-Prachet in turn looking to challenge and possibly find a way through. That's Phil Capstick. She looks to challenge into turn. Meanwhile, Jason McAnulty continues to prevail towards the front of the production class. He's got Thierry Edouard in the 71 car, just trying to pick his way up through the order. Meanwhile, out front we've got the Evora GT4, then a train of the magnificent EXgene V6 Cup R's. Oh, and a spin behind, and that's Thierry Vertiest who has the moment. Rear of the car breaks traction at the hairpin. Thierry gets back on his way. While the battle at the front of the 211s really beginning to close together. We've got the recovering Vertiest, and then drivers looking to make progress. That's Nicolas Ferrer. We thought he'd go well for the back of the grid, and he continues to climb on up through the order. Here is a replay, meanwhile, of a gravelly moment for Tamas Vizin. Tamas may get out of there because the gravel didn't seem to be too deeply packed. Meanwhile, it's the fight for second place, which is probably the closest. So Nicolas Gibson has got Jonathan Walker on his tail. We go in car with Jonathan. Oh, and Ibsen brakes very early for the final complex and leaves a gaping hole for Jonathan Walker to dart through. I'm not sure whether that was a deliberate tactic from Ibsen, maybe to let Jonathan Walker make some of the running and see if he can come back at Gregory Rasse. Meanwhile, Jason McAnulty continues to battle with Thierry Edouard, and Edouard goes through, and they are busy currently competing for second place in the production class. John Rasse has moved clear of them, just caught a glimpse of John there, and then we have got Steve Williams recovering from earlier wobbles, picking his way up the order. Williams in the new for him, Lotus Evora GT4, having raced with such success, of course, previously in the Lotus 211, amongst other things. Shouldn't be a problem for Williams to find a way past Edouard, although Thierry is looking to fight persistently. Just the power of the Evora GT4, though, should allow Steve Williams to propel past without too many problems. Meanwhile, back to the fight for second place. Jonathan Walker defending from Nicolas Gibson. Now that may give Nicholas Walker the opportunity to close in. Gibson looks to draw alongside Walker as they come out of the hairpin, but he can't quite make the move stick as they sprint onward. Meanwhile, we've got a challenge a little bit further behind that. Xavier Georges side by side with Jeremy Lorenko, and Xavier Georges, the sky blue and orange machine, who moves up ahead of the not dissimilar EXgene V6 Cup R of Jeremy Lorenko. Like so many of the cars in this Lotus Cup Europe field, immaculately prepared, as again Jonathan Walker runs a little bit wide out over the AstroTurf, allows Ibsen the opportunity to close up onto his tail. Ibsen, the metallic silver car with the red wheels. Walker, the white car with the black roof. So they are about to reel off another lap, and all the while, though, Gregory Rasse continues to build his advantage at the front of the field, and probably the interest behind is the train of Siege V6 cars. Then we've got the battle for the lead of the 211s. That looks like Christophe Lezondre, who is out front in the 211 tussle, and then looking to try and make a little bit of progress. That's John Packer, who gains the place on Jean-Baptiste Loop as they head on towards the hairpin. Packer was ahead momentarily. Jean-Baptiste eases himself to the inside, and you get a sense from this held shot just how the field's beginning to spread itself out now in the early stages of the race, as the field, though, such as its size, they've all found somebody to battle with. You can see that Gregory Rasse is building a nice advantage. We go in car with Philippe Loop. He is busy battling with John Packer and Jean-Baptiste Loop. Packer, the black 211, in the middle of the sandwich as they head through this first stadium section, then very quick on down the what sometimes used as a drag strip towards the other stadium section. Meanwhile, out to the gravel trap and recovering well, Thomas Vizin. So the Hungarian driver clearly suffering no ill effects from that spin earlier on. Meanwhile, again, John Walker living dangerously, and then Nicholas Walker does the job with a little bit more aplomb across the gravel trap. He bounces and bumps his way back onto the road, loss of a place or so. The AstroTurf is very slippery. It's laid there for a reason. It punishes the drivers who run wide, but at the same time doesn't necessarily end their race. Philippe Loop picks his way through the dust cloud on the brakes into the hairpin. You can see the large crowd assembled. The Jim Clark revival meeting on the highlights of the German motorsport calendar as a problem for Mark Goudet. So it's a bad day for Goudet, because it would appear as if he is going to be heading towards the pit lane and retirement in his 211. Out front, though, Gregory Rasse continues to control the race from Jonathan Walker and Nikolaj Ibsen. Some great battling going on throughout the field, but we are still in relatively early stages in Hockenheim. Mark Goudet pulls into the pits. We'll take a short break. Join us in a couple of moments' time as the action continues. Welcome back to the Lotus Cup Europe. We are at Hockenheim for the opening rounds of the season, and charging up through the back of the grid is the number 70 car of Nicolas Frère. He's just doing battle with Anthony Fournier at the moment as they head towards turn 2 here on the Hockenheim Grand Prix circuit, racing as part of the Jim Clark revival meeting. And this is one of the closest battles he's got on track at the moment. Out front, by the way, Gregory Rasse continues to lead as he was before we went to the commercials. Meanwhile, Thomas Vizin is making good progress up the order after his earlier spin. You can see that the Hockenheim circuit is somewhat different from Jim Clark's day, with lots of safety fencing around the circuit, which even our cameraman has to stand behind, as the battle between Fournier and Frère continues. Still, Frère struggling to progress. In the meantime, Gregory Rasse getting in and amongst some of the traffic, and this is when his race starts to get a lot busier. So there is the 211 of Anthony Fournier, Nicolas Frère in the Pocket Rocket EXgene just behind. They work through the stadium section on towards the conclusion of another lap. It's out of the final sequence, the double right-hander, and then sprint along the start and finish straight on towards the first corner. Frère not quite close enough to challenge this time around. Through they go, and then we've got another nice scrap brewing up behind three of the 211s. It's Mr. and Mrs. Genu Prache running second and third in the queue, and they are just up behind Benoit Rogier in the bright red number 76 car, as Jean-Pierre Genu Prache finds a way past Rogier. Rogier then looks to defend from Nathalie Genu Prache. Well, that could get a little bit tight into the hairpin. They make it out in one piece. Nathalie Genu Prache gains the place. Whether or not she'll keep it with that waved yellow flag, we can see in the back of the shot, remains to be seen. So the battle continuing underneath the imposing Mercedes-Benz stand, and they're almost three wide. Nathalie Genu Prache looks to the inside of Benoit Rogier. Jean-Pierre Genu Prache trying to find the space as well. This is a very enjoyable little tussle. The 211s all very evenly matched, beginning their long trip back towards the pits. Rogier to the inside, Jean-Pierre Genu Prache. That may not work, because for those of you with thick and furry anoraks, you may remember Lucas de Grassi trying that in an F3 Euro Series race, ending up on top of the tyre wall and almost in the grandstand. Well, Benoit Rogier loses out on that occasion, drops behind both the Genu Praches. as here is our race leader, Gregory Rasse, second place. Jonathan Walker trying to close in on him. Nicolas Gibson still keeping them honest. That's Case versus Lois, who they are lapping in his production class Elise. So the 2:11 train continuing to roll. Oh, that's a mistake into turn 1 from Jean-Pierre Genier-Prache. He may get punished for that. He's done well actually to hold it all together. Instead, Nathalie Genier-Prache looks to challenge into turn 2, launches a move to the inside. And as they all continue to battle with each other, that is allowing, I think, Steve Williams in his Evora just to close up onto their tail. So they come into view. I wouldn't call it the back straight, but it's an absolutely flat-out back flick around the left-hand kink into the hairpin. And then back towards the stadium section. Even the diggers have stopped working in the background to enjoy the action from the Lotus Cup Europe. This is the battle for 13th position that we're currently enjoying. There is Nathalie Genier-Prache, the pink car, and Benoit Roger still joining this fight. Jean-Pierre Genier-Prache, formerly a race winner, of course, in the Lotus Cup Europe, just behind. One of the beauties of this championship is wherever you look, there are good battles going on. That's Benedek Major, who is just ahead of Jean Rasse. And now Steve Williams in the Evora is beginning to join the 211s. Headlights ablaze from Williams as he turns into the cambered left-hand hairpin. And the camera angle doesn't deceive you there. It really is quite a narrow piece of tarmac. And you can overtake, but you need to be fully alongside. Instead, the preferred option is more to do exactly what Steve Williams did then, and that's find the space to the inside, then into the right-hander if you can possibly get the exit. So across the line they come. Another lap reeled off. All the while, though, out front, Gregory Rasse continues to march onward. Williams has cleared 2 of the 211s. What about next when he turns his headlights off? Expect any consultation in the mirrors from Nathalie Genier-Prache. She'll be perfectly aware that Steve is chasing down. Meanwhile, the gap between the leaders, if anything, has come down just a little bit. There is Jonathan Walker, rather, again out over the AstroTurf. Walker living dangerously. He's broken away a little bit. Nicolas Gibson, they've got Xavier Georges now up into 4th place. Not too far detached from this battle either. There is Xavier Georges, the sky blue and orange car. More battles to enjoy. Markus Nikovic goes a little bit sideways. He's in the thick of the action amongst the production class runners. And is shortly going to be overhauled by our race leaders, who just put their way clear of Jason McAnulty. So you can see then Gregory Rasse just at the back of the picture. He's got production class car and an EXgene V6 Cup R. It's Janos Santa, who he is able to pick his way past. Unfortunately, Santa doesn't delay Rasse, so it's not Christmas come early for Jonathan Walker. He can't gain any advantage in the traffic. So here comes Rasse with Walker still a couple of lap cars between himself and the race leader, and Nicolas Gibson not too far adrift either. And of course, the more cars that they lack, the quicker cars that they're catching. That is one of the Elise Cup R's that they're just picking their way through past now. And we've got Thierry Hedouin as well, who is in amongst the traffic as they head on to the last lap of the race. And it's looking reasonably comfortable for Gregory Rasse. Jonathan Walker likewise in 2nd position. I think we'll have to make a mistake for Nicolas Gibson to come on to turns with him. Gibson, though, looking very smooth and poised through the first turn, just rides the rumble strip. Walker, though, no dramas particularly as they head on towards turn 2. Nicolas Gibson, who just has to concentrate on getting the exit that he wants. Thierry Hedouin continues his dice. Now, what sort of progress can Nicolas Gibson make? Meanwhile, Jean-Baptiste Loup has got Anthony Fournier closing up onto his tail. Christophe Legendre it is, by the way, who leads the 211 class. This is the battle for 2nd in class. As now here come the race leaders, and Walker has been caught by Nikolaj Gibson. And Nikolaj Gibson now looking to really challenge that second position, and Walker a little bit slow. I don't know whether he's a little bit light on fuel, possibly coming out of the hairpin, because Ibsen looks to draw alongside as they head through the turn, and Ibsen all sideways, but he does a great job of blocking out Walker. But then Nicholas Ibsen runs wide. Surely Jonathan Walker can square it off, will draw alongside. He can't quite do it. The 7 car just seems to be down the acceleration, but Walker gets his elbow out, bang, makes some contact, seesaws the wheel, but still Ibsen is ahead. Nikolaj Ibsen may have just snuck second position. There's only 3 corners to go. No concerns for Gregory Rasse, he leads the way. This is the battle everybody's watching though. Second position, it's suddenly come alive with just a few corners to go. Nikolaj Ibsen, the silver paint scheme glinting. Headlights of Jonathan Walker behind him, but for whatever reason, John Walker, something's gone wrong on this last lap. So coming through to take the flag, it's going to be Gregory Rasse who wins the first Lotus Cup Europe race in the season. Rasse victorious, and second place is indeed going to go the way Nikolaj Ibsen just from John Walker. So dramatic end to the race then. Let's have a look at the final results. Victory and V6 class honours to Gregory Rasse. The top 2 level was Christophe Lezondre in 8th place. A great drive from Christophe, formerly a race winner. Nicolas Ferrer it was who took open class honours, and John Rasse, the top production runner, a very strong 20th place for John. Well, Thierry Edouin's feisty drive was rewarded with 23rd, and Thomas Vizin recovering well after his wayward moment to 21st position. Well, despite the huge grid, 33 of them made it through safely to the checkered flag. It's all in all a very lively and entertaining way to start the season.
Gregory, a fantastic start to the season. 2015 looks set to be a promising year. You had 2-second lead the whole way round. How was it out there?
It was fantastic.
A man, a few words, but it was a fantastic drive to start. Nikolai, come here. Now, Nikolai, you do indeed have to do more. Now, you managed to take John on the last lap. That was a fantastic drive. You were holding your position strong all the way and then got into second place.
Yeah, I was keeping up with him all the way around, and then I was hoping that my tyres would be better than his in the end, because we were sort of keeping the same distance all the way. And I think 4 or 5 laps from the end, I could see he was beginning to, his tyres were not as good as mine. And then eventually, I think he had a tyre problem, that's what he said. But I caught him in the last hairpin in the bottom, and then I was just really defensive lines all the way home.
Now, Jonathan, that was a slight unfortunate finish, but still a fantastic drive. 3rd place, not a bad way to start the season.
No, not too bad. It would have been nice to have a bit of a race with Greg. I fluffed the start in the wrong gear, hit the rev limiter and just lost a little bit of time. But Greg had really good pace, but he was had some problems in traffic, and I think if I hadn't had the tyre failure 2 laps from the end, I could have caught him and given him a little bit of a battle, but it wasn't to be.
Join us after the break with more action from here at Hockenheim. Welcome back after the break. You join us here in the heart of the action at Hockenheim. Rob Woolwich, it was your first race for Lotus Cup Europe, and it was a fantastic race for you. You managed to keep in the mix all the way through.
Yeah, absolutely. First race in Europe, done a few in the UK, but really wanted the adventure of getting out into Europe, and it's really delivered.
And obviously racing at Hockenheim, it's a legendary circuit and full of excitement and difficult turns. How was it driving for you, first experience?
Oh, real eye-opener first time round, really quick, real feeling of atmosphere as you come into the stadium. Great place, love to come back.
It's very difficult to learn first off. I had a bit of problem on Thursday on the practice, struggled not having enough time on circuit, but then yeah, got as soon as the green light went, we was racing. So
as the cars take to the track for the second time this weekend here at Hockenheim, of course it's race 2. Now a slightly different lineup as John Walker sits this one out for Lee Cunningham to have his seat. So it's certainly all to play for. That first corner proved very tricky. So let's see if it does so again in race 2.
Standing start, of course, for race 2. The grid the same as race 1. So the marshal sprints across the back of the track with the green flag. So the red lights are on, out they go, and we're racing once more in Hockenheim. And it's a good start again from Gregory Rasse, but this time Lee Cunningham taking over at the wheel of the number 7 car has got the jump into turn 1, and it's Cunningham who takes the initial advantage. We look back at Gregory Rasse. Now can Cunningham break away from the rest of the field? Meanwhile, the remainder of the pack heading on towards the first turn, all being sure to avoid damage, as now Rasse looks to the inside of Cunningham, trying to challenge in the Evora in his early stages, doing what he did in race 1, which is get out front early on and then break clear of the rest of the field. Caught the glimpse of Steve Williams in the Evora, looking to pick his way through some of the production runners. Oh, and somebody having a little bit of a spin further back down the pack, couldn't quite catch the number. Lots of runoff on that section of the circuit, so he should recover. Lee Cunningham picks out the throttle coming out of the hairpin, just runs over the curbs and onward back towards the first of the infield sections on the return trip to the pit straight. Starting with fast right-hand flick, then a left-hand kink. Got a brake and then really attack the curves, but not too much now that they've got a sausage curb in place, and then just get the power down as early as you dare. So looking to make some ground is the car of Nicolas Ferrer. So Ferrer showing strongly early on, but battle for the lead is looking very nice as Lee Cunningham, having taken over from John Walker for this race, doing what he can to keep Gregory Rasse at bay. It's a 30 minutes or so. The extent to which he'll be able to prevail through to the checkered flag remains to be seen, but all good thus far during the course of the first lap. And Lee, an experienced racer in all manner of GT cars, also race winner in the Atom Cup, of course, so he knows how to drive these powerful Lotus EXgene V6 Cup Rs, but more importantly, he also just knows how to keep a tight, clean, defensive race and make Gregory Rasse do all the hard work. Gigantic pack streaking into the second lap of the race. Another place gained for Nicolas Ferrer in the production class. It's John Rasse who leads again. He's breaking clear as Steve Williams eases past Jason McAnulty. McAnulty falling to the clutch of Marcus Nikovic as well, and they've got the sky blue production class car of James Knight also bearing down on their tail. Gregory Rasse meanwhile looking to the inside. Lee Cunningham into turn. I think he may have just snuck through then. Cunningham looks to get the power down nice and early, moves up through the gears. And in fact, Cunningham has reclaimed the advantage on the switchback. Close and competitive racing in the early stages here at Hockenheim, and as Cunningham and Rasse battle, you just got to wonder, will this bring Nicolas Gibson into the mix and make it a three-way tussle for the lead? Because it's often the case when cars battle, others get involved. Meanwhile, a problem for Jean-Baptiste Loup, and the 211 sadly looking like it's not going to go much further as Gregory Rasse challenges for the lead into the stadium section and has found a way through. Now, what has Lee Cunningham, if anything, got by way of a retaliation? That's the question as they head through the hairpin and on through the left-hand kick. The camber really changes through that left and right-hand section. You don't quite get a sense of it from television pictures, but occasionally when you've got motorbike racing here at Hockenheim, they set the camera low there and you can see the loads on the suspension with that very quick change of direction. Meanwhile, in the production class, we have got battles throughout the field as Case First Lois comes under a little bit of pressure from Dennis van den Sarvel, and Rolf Woolridge is sitting there keeping a watching brief as well. You can see why the Lotus Cup Europe is such a popular category. You just have so many cars enter. Nicholas Walker looks to the inside of Anthony Fournier. Fournier, of course, to the head of the 211 class this time around. There is Janos Santa, who you really feel should be in the red and white car rather than the yellow and black one. As Lee Cunningham is now under threat for that second place from Nicolas Gibson. They go past the car of Jean-Baptiste Loop being towed along the edge of the circuit, and Lee Cunningham agonising wait for the green flag, and now he can re-challenge and move back past Nicolas Gibson, which he does to good effect. But the pair of them battling, you can see that Xavier Georges is joining in as well. Xavier, who'd like to get himself onto the podium. Headlights are flashing from Nicolas Gibson as over the rumble strip a little bit onto the AstroTurf for Gregory Rasse. And it's probably just worth reminding everybody that actually FIA series, they are allowed to have all four wheels on occasion over the white line. It's not quite the same as British motorsport where you get penalised with just the two wheels. You can get away with four wheels on occasion. So that's why we're seeing some of the cars running out quite wide with impunity. Meanwhile, Case First Lois is challenged by Rob Woolridge. Woolridge looks to make the move. You just caught a glimpse there of the elevated curve to the inside, and that means that Lois able to take advantage of maybe some slight hesitation on the part of Woolridge. So now that he's in the lead of the race, Gregory Rasse is just beginning to ease clear of the train of EXgene V6 Capars behind. And while Nathalie Genu-Prache is still in the thick of the action, and she has got Benoit Rogier once more in pursuit. A pair of them were pretty much interlocked throughout the entirety of race one, and that's continued on into the second race of the weekend. They're about to be reeled in by Steve Williams, and Williams has brought with him for company Thomas Wiesin, who seems to have been in the thick of the action all weekend. So on through the back traverse of the circuit to the hairpin for that strap. Meanwhile, the fight for second well and truly alive, and again Lee Cunningham maybe just off the optimal racing line, I would venture, through the right-hander, but he gathers it up quite nicely. Nicolas Gibson a little bit more conservative possibly in third, and that means that Xavier Georges is able to join in. Of course, we'll have to think about traffic in the not too distant future. Meanwhile, Jason McAnulty, James Knight and Marcus Nikovic do battle in their production class cars. James, of course, formerly a race winner in the Lotus on Track Elise Trophy. Jason McAnulty, another driver who has raced very successfully in that class of racing before making the transition to Pan-European Motorsport, where championship like Lotus Cup Europe gets raced on some of Europe's premier circuits and at some very prestigious meetings. Meanwhile, out front, Gregory Rasse leads the way and beginning to build quite a nice buffer. In fifth place, Jeremy Lorenko, under no particular pressure from Nicholas Walker. It's mainly because Walker's got a little bit of pressure just beginning to be exerted onto him as well. Thierry Edouard trying to join in to the production class battle. He's just looking to pick his way past one of the Lee's Capars ahead of him as into the hairpin, and Lee Cunningham wiggles on the brakes. Nicolas Gibson may well get the switch back here. Cunningham could just get the sense that the car wasn't quite as he wanted it to be as he was braking, just squirming and moving more than he would have liked it to, and that is advantage Ibsen. So Nicolas Gibson then up into second position. Xavier Georges in fourth place, now taking his turn to try and chase down Lee Cunningham. They're about half race distance here, as Nathalie Genu-Prache is in the mix with Nicolas Ferrer. Ferrer sets off in pursuit of Benoit Rogier down the lengthy back straight. Meanwhile, James Knight looking to ease to the inside of Jason McAnulty into the hairpin and runs out the road a little bit in the sky blue car. Knight should rejoin, but he's going to lose a couple of places as a result, and I think crucially with that hairpin you come onto such a long straight that you need to carry as much momentum and exit speed as possible. If you don't do that, then you can arrive into a whole world of no fun at all. But fortunately, it seems to carry the momentum as Marcus Nikovic now looks to apply the pressure as well. So on towards the more traditional stadium section for that group of cars as the race leaders head through turn one. Out to embark on another lap there is Nicholas Walker. He's got, I think, Philippe Loop just in behind him. So almost at half race distance in the second race of the weekend, Lotus Cup Europe in Hockenheim. Join us after the break as the action continues. Welcome back to Lotus Cup Europe. We are here at Hockenheim for the opening rounds of the season, and Gregory Rasse, as we move in the second half of race 2, is doing much as he did in race 1, which is leading the way and just gently exerting his advantage over the rest of the field. He's got a chain of the absolutely beautiful EXgene V6 Capars in pursuit, and then we've got Anthony Fournier, the preeminent of the 211s, with Christophe Laroche leading the open class, and to the head of the production battle is once more John Rasse. So the sun is shining for race 2 around the Hockenheim Grand Prix circuit. We'll next see Formula 1 cars in action in anger. Of course, it's been one of the major talking points of the International Motorsport season so far. Major talking point of the Lotus Cup Europe season so far is, can anybody do anything about Gregory Rasse? He's clear of Nicolas Gibson in second place. Lee Cunningham is third. Xavier Georges is in fourth, just to hear Jeremy Marenko, Philippe Loup and Nicholas Walker. Then we've got Anthony Fournier, Thierry Vertiest, Christophe Legendre and John Packer. And while Steve Williams in his Evora is moving on through the order, picking his way past one of the 211s. Steve, always such a feisty competitor as well, one of the hardest working men in the paddock, because alongside driving the cars, Steve Williams also prepares a good number of the machines entered for any given round of the Lotus Cup Europe. Pretty much the only rest he gets at the weekend is in the assembly area before going to race, and so he is equipped with the Evora for this year. At the moment, it's working very nicely. This is probably the battle of the race, though. Amongst the production runners, Jason McAnulty just ahead of James Knight. They aren't quite in position to challenge for a place on the production podium. Might sneak third if things go well, and so they are having a real ding-dong cat-and-mouse tussle. Every time you see them come to shot, it's a different car at the head of the chain. At the moment, though, it's McAnulty. There's the race leader, Gregory Rasse, through the first corner. Again, you see the bright orange sausage curb there. It used to be that corner was to the inside. They had corner markers, which meant you could really attack that turn, but now with the sausage curve, it just requires a slight degree of circumspection. In second place, Nicolas Gibson under no particular threat, unlike our third place man, Lee Cunningham. He has got Xavier Georges bottled up right behind me. Here are Christophe Legendre and John Packer, meanwhile, in their 211s in pursuit of Thierry Vertiest. And Thierry, one of several Evora GT4s in the race. Jean-Pierre Genin-Prachet, particular car just behind. All about the McAnulty battle with still Jason McAnulty, but he's got Thierry Edouard looking to challenge into the left-hand hairpin. McAnulty should be able to use the camber of the turn here to his advantage. At the same time, Edouard gets a good exit, just takes a little bit of toe onto double right-handers. Now McAnulty doesn't really leave a gap. They both slither through the treads of the tyres, doing their job, just allowing the cars to slide onward over the start and finish line. Another lap embarked upon. McAnulty doggedly defending what is third place in the production battle, but not for long. A problem for McAnulty. He's passed by Thierry Edouard and James Knight as well, and I fear that that may be race over for Jason McAnulty. He pulls off the road. There's a waved yellow flag, and that is, very sad to say, game over for Jason McAnulty. Meanwhile, in amongst the traffic is our race leader, Gregory Rasse. He's using that to good advantage to move further clear of Nicolas Gibson. Lee Cunningham still with Xavier Georges just behind. The LED headlights flashing on Nicolas Gibson's car, just letting everybody know he's on his way. Rob Woolridge and Kees Vers-Lois in the thick of that traffic, as is Dennis van den Sarvel, who, the race leader, absolutely surges past into the hairpin, where they pick up the remnants of the old Grand Prix circuit. And to the disappointment of many motorsport purists, when the Hockenheim Grand Prix circuit was reconfigured, getting on for a decade ago now, the old circuit was really left to ruin, which is a great shame, because it was one of the most distinctive venues in international motorsport. It's not to say that the current Hockenheim isn't an enjoyable track to drive on, but it's very unusual that you see any driver who pays a visit there and doesn't look slightly wistfully off towards the forest and what used to be. Well, headlights being flashed from Markus Nikovic, as he is up behind Phil Capstick. And Marcus, with good reason, he is looking to try and get himself on to the production class podium. And still, Lee Cunningham keeping Xavier Georges behind him, and the glimpses that we see of them, Xavier's not really been able to get quite close enough yet to challenge Lee Cunningham. Race leader Gregory Rasse, though, easing through the traffic with some aplomb. Nicolas Gibson doing much the same, and then we've got Nicholas Walker with Xavier Georges now in slightly closer pursuit. I think Walker caught a slower car at possibly just the wrong point on the circuit. We'll wait for them to burst into view momentarily out of the left-hander. So race leader continues to find a way around some of the production class runners. So here is Lee Cunningham through the hairpin. That's Janos Santa who's looking to put a lap on, and Xavier Georges goes through, sneaks past. You could just see that Lee Cunningham ran out a little bit wide onto the curb, and Xavier Georges pounced in an instant, and then Georges gets moved out wide. I'm not sure that the slower car really saw that he was there. That was very nearly Xavier, the red-faced driver, as he lapped Santa, because he was pushed off position and recovered still in third place, but it gave Lee Cunningham opening. So heading now towards the latter stages of the race, and Gregory Rasse looking to get his Lotus Cup Europe campaign off to really the most emphatic start. Oh, and through the gravel trap again for Nicholas Walker, who did it in race 1, not quite as spectacularly on that occasion in race 2, but it means that Philippe Luke could breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. So across the line, and Phil Capstick is the next target for Lapri. Phil, the driver that we've seen racing Lotus in the UK for a number of years. Then we've got James Knight, Thierry Edouard, now fairly firmly ensconced in to second place now in the production battle. They've both been able to find a way past Markus Nikovic. Still Nicholas Walker a little bit frustrated. He attempts to get past Philippe Loop as a spin for Rob Woolridge. That's really not where Rob wants to be, facing the oncoming traffic, one of the fastest approaches on the circuit. It's not even caught the attention of the marshals with that spin. They're looking in another direction. Oh yes, there we go. Hello sir, better wave the yellow flags. Well, there's so many different battles to watch for. You can excuse a moment of inattentivity from some of the marshals, as Lee Cunningham, his opportunity, I think, to reclaim third, being hampered just a little bit with some of the back markers. Now he just needs a good toe behind Xavier Georges as we are into the last lap of the race, and Gregory Rasse has been in imperious form this weekend. It was a good scrap earlier on with Lee Cunningham, but Rasse paid his time, made the move when he needed to, and thereafter hasn't really been under any particular threat. Nicolas Gibson, another driver who'll be very satisfied with the way that the weekend has unfolded, on course for 2 second places, and Xavier Georges will get himself his first podium of the season. The next stop, the Lotus Cup Europe after Hockenheim, is the Dijon-Prenois circuit, another driver favourite for 2 reasons. Firstly, it's a great layout. Secondly, right in the heart of wine country. Not, of course, that Lotus Cup Europe drivers do drink anything other than energy shakes and protein drinks over the course of the weekend, but they may relax after the racing. And certainly Gregory Rasse has earned himself the right to celebrate this evening, or almost, because he has a bit of a wobble going into the hairpin for the final time, as Christophe Legendre, John Packer continue their race-long scrap for second place in the 211 class behind Anthony Fournier, as the checkered flag goes out, and it's the win for Gregory Rasse. He does the double at Hockenheim in the Lotus Cup Europe. Our runner-up is Nicolas Gibson, Xavier Georges completing the rostrum. So great stuff from Rasse. He will be very pleased with that, as he waves to the marshals on his way back to the Hockenheim podium. Let's have a look at the final results then, with victory and V6 class honours again for Gregory Rasse. The top 211, Anthony Fournier in 8th position. Good drive from Anthony. Christophe Laroche in 14th, the top of the open runners, and then 19th place, enough to net Jean Rasse, the double in the production battle. Thierry Edouard, James Knight having a super race, and they gave us plenty of entertainment. Rob Woolridge recovering from his spin to complete the top 30, just ahead of Case versus Lois. Unfortunately, we lost one or two of them along the way. So in terms of the championship standings then, well, it's a tie between Gregory and Jean Rasse. They have both done a double in Hockenheim. Anthony Fournier in 3rd, clear of Chris and Frank Laroche, then Nicolas Gibson and Nicolas Frere. It is very, very tight, even in these early stages of the season. So into Parc Fermé in Hockenheim, as the drivers celebrate in Germany. Soon, attention turns for the next round, coming up shortly in Dijon-Prenois. But for now, time to celebrate.
Now, Gregory, a fantastic race as always. Congratulations.
Merci.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm a bit surprised actually to be here. Usually I'm always on the 2nd or 3rd position, and then I push to be first. But it was quite impressive to be on the front from the beginning, and we did a lot of modification to the car, so we had a beautiful weekend. It was good.
So 2 second places for the weekend was very good.
Not a bad weekend. Now, obviously, the circuit, a fantastic circuit to drive out as well. You've obviously enjoyed your time here at Hockenheim.
Yeah, Hockenheim is fantastic. It's one of the best places, I think. I love this place. So
I'm very, very happy for my first race in V6 Cup. I'm very happy. I can't believe it. Thanks to the team, Jura 6. And I hope in French race, Dijon and Manicourt, yes.
Well, that's all for today here at Hockenheim, and that brings us to the end of round 1. So until next time, we will most certainly see you then.